Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Today, I just posted a piece on the right side of 40 for Substack. So I write for Psychology Today and I write for um, Substack. And today I happened to write a piece for Substack and was talking about the fear of midlife because I've been hearing that from people lately about how they're afraid of midlife. And I'm always talking about what's good in midlife. And so some people were like, yeah, well, what about the bad stuff? What about the stuff that scares us? And so I thought, oh, you know what? I really should identify that. Really, the whole idea is to turn all the fears of midlife into opportunities, and that is way, way harder than it sounds. So I don't want to give out any information that sounds like everything is so easy and it should just be done and it should be really an easy kind of a thing. Don't worry about it. I see that you didn't complete it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You can if you'd like. Yeah, midlife is 40 to 65. So, just a little bit about myself. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. My name is Deborah Heiser. I have been a researcher. I've won awards in my research. I wrote The Mentorship Edge. I talk about midlife all the time. And I'm an expert contributor for Psychology Today. So if this is a topic that interests you, you can check out what I write there. You can check out what I write in Substack. But I thought it would be a great topic to talk about today because, you know what, I realized I usually talk about all sorts of great things about midlife, and I haven't spent much time talking about the things that will. Thank you. I appreciate you. Um, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that actually scare us. So, the fears that we all face in midlife are those fears that actually can become pathways to growth, connection, and a renewed sense of purpose. But when we're feeling them, it doesn't feel like that is anything that we have to look forward to. So, if there's something that really is a fear for you and this resonates with you, I'm going to try to give you some ideas of how you can look at it in a new way, to reframe it, just so that when you see it or feel it or think about it, you'll have some sense of control over it. Essentially, when I talk about the fears of midlife that we start to face, the base for all of it, all of that fear and scariness tends to be that we don't have a sense of control. And that's what's really important about this, is to regain a sense of control. So, midlife can feel scary because it's a time when we get hit with a lot of tough things, tough questions, tough things to think about. Midlife is the time when we first really can start to see people passing away, maybe family members, colleagues, people that we're close with. And it really starts to hit in midlife that it becomes much more, yes, divorce, loss, any kind of loss that's out there can start to really become much more prevalent in midlife, not just for ourselves, but with other people. And people at this age, right around 50 in particular, really can get illnesses that, heart disease, cancers, and other things. We'll see more of that. And that's scary to us, right? So we'll start to see and experience a whole lot of things in midlife because we're exposed to new things that we weren't when we were younger. And it makes us sort of stop in our tracks. So, when we get hit with these things, we'll start to have all these universal feelings and tough questions that come up for us. Things like, is it too late to start something new? Will I become irrelevant? Am I going to become invisible? Have I done enough with my life? That comes up a lot when people have a loss. They'll say, have I done enough? Um, and is there anything I could do now? And a lot of people think it's too late. I've missed the boat. So, and people will also say, what if my health declines? So somebody talked to me and they said, well, what if my health declines? And I said, that's going to happen for all of us, really. But this is, yeah, there is a feeling of desperation. We can all feel that, right? That scariness of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to go to a nursing home? Or am I going to have anybody to care for me? Am I going to be all alone? These are the things that come up for us. So these fears are normal. We all feel them. We all go through them. Almost everybody experiences them. So you may have felt some of them. And if you have, that's normal. The thing is, when you read all kinds of things about how great the future is going to be, you can say to yourself, what? I wasn't thinking that. Also, if you're hearing a lot of doom and gloom about your future, that doesn't help either. So I'm going to look to try to show you what the scary things are and maybe how you can reframe it so that you can feel a little bit of a sense of control over some of the things that we have no control over. So the first thing that people usually talk about is a loss of identity and purpose. So this could be anything. Maybe you're thinking of retirement. Maybe you switch jobs. Maybe who knows what it is, but midlife, maybe it's an empty nest. Your kids are out of the house. We usually have on our business card, that's our identity. And our business card could be parent, right? And your kids go off to college or they leave the house or whatever the deal is. That's your identity. And we usually carry it around like a business card. And we say to people, well, I am a mom, or I have this job title, or I am this. And that gives us a sense of purpose. But if we are able to do something like think of all the other things that make us who we are, that's very helpful to us. It doesn't feel like we're getting hit with a brick wall. So you could lose all sorts of familiar roles that you have to yourself. Your kids move out, your career changes. Divorce was something that somebody mentioned. All these transitions are super frightening for people, every one of us, right? But it can lead to rediscovering and redefining our identity. So the one thing I tell people to do is to always, I would say it could be both. You should be doing both. So I'm just answering a question that's on the chat. So really, when we start to think about midlife, even if you're not feeling these scary things right now, you should really be considering, who am I? Am I just my job? Am I just a parent? None of us are. And I'll give you an example of somebody who had an identity and purpose change. There was a teacher that I met with who retired, and you get to retire a little bit earlier when you're a teacher, if you want. And this person was retiring, and she said, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I've always been a teacher. I don't have anything to say. Like when people say, what do? I don't have anything to tell them. And I happened to meet this person in her home when I was doing coaching with her. And I said, wow, your house is beautiful. It has the most beautiful art I've ever seen. Tell me about it. And this person said, oh, I made it all. And I said, you didn't say that you identify as an artist. What's that about? And this person was like, well, I never thought of myself as an artist. I just do it on the side. I enjoy it. So when you have a hobby, when you have something that you enjoy, make sure that you're including that in your identity, because this person then moved and started an art studio. So something that, and so was able to sell the art. So one thing that you can do is take some of the things that you're naturally already doing that you're not giving yourself credit for and incorporate that into your identity. So you may even say to yourself, I'm going to reinvent myself. I have an opportunity to be something all new and different and better and, a new identity for myself. You can reinvent yourself. You can, look at new ways of incorporating some of those passions that you have that you've been doing on the side that you haven't been thinking twice about. and incorporate that into your identity as well. All of these are helpful. There are so many people who have pivoted in midlife to change what their identity is and say, maybe become a writer, maybe become, I decided to start teaching at a university in midlife. I started writing for Psychology Today in midlife. I had all these pivots, and I never would have imagined either of those for my path. Later on, I became an author when I was young, but I became an author of the second time around with a more mainstream book, in my 50s. So this is the kind of thing that you can add those to your identity. You don't have to identify as one thing, like your job or your role in the house or your role in the family. All of those are your identities. Now, that helps you when you are trying to look at purpose for yourself and feeling identity. So one of the biggest fears that people have is losing identity and losing purpose. So prior to midlife, or whenever you can, the first second you get the opportunity, really do a deep dive into who you are, what you enjoy, what you have had as purpose in the past. It might crop up now that you have a little more time and kind of add to, whatever it is that you're doing. But if you start to explore new passions, connect with new people, start mentoring, volunteering, getting involved, you're going to find a new identity and a new purpose. Even involving yourself in volunteering, that is a way that people, or mentoring, that is a way that people can say, this is who I identify as a person who volunteers, a person who is a mentor. People who run, marathons, half marathons, they say, I'm a runner, or I walk, those races. Anything can be added to your identity. So don't make it into something that is too big that you could lose if you change a job. The second thing is fear of irrelevance. Now, this is a huge one. I remember when I was I was starting to talk to people about mentorship, and this one is a toughie because people will feel like if they lose their job or they switch careers in some way, they will become irrelevant. And so many people say this over and over to me. So the first person that said it to me was Bill Cheswick, and he's one of the fathers of the network firewall. He wrote the first book on network firewalls, and that's how we're all able to communicate safely online, is the work that he did. It's in internet security. So why would he start to feel irrelevant? It's not like people aren't using that anymore. What was he talking about? What he was saying was, I'm going to be leaving. That's great. I'm going to be leaving my job, and I'm going to be retiring, and I'm going to feel irrelevant. Like, all the work I've ever done doesn't matter. And I was so sad to hear that, because I thought, wow, you're really completely relevant. Another person who really was looking to be validated and have relevance was Alan Zweibel, who talked about how he always mentored and really wanted to keep maintaining his relevance. He was one of the first writers for Saturday Night Live, and he had to always keep sort of making sure that he remained relevant and validated with the work that he was doing. Now, these kinds of things that people are talking about are things that we come up with. Have you ever not felt relevant or worried about not being relevant? This is something that we face. So ways that we can do this are to get connected, mentoring, volunteering, pursuing any of your creative interests, keeping that relevance alive. And that's what's helpful to us. We do have control over that. It's a matter of, maybe you start writing about what it is that you want to write about so that you maintain your relevance. There's a free way to do that. Go on Substack. That's what I did. I don't just write for Psychology Today. I wanted to write even more than I write for that. And so I started a Substack called the right side of 40. And that's what you can do. It keeps you relevant. It keeps you connected with other people. It keeps you conversing and keeps your ideas out there. So you could do a podcast. You could do all kinds of things that allow you to express yourself and pursue creative interests. Volunteering is a huge one, mentoring is a huge one, philanthropy. So it's really looking at, if you're looking at relevance, who inspires you? How can you look at somebody who inspires you? Have you been mentored by somebody? What is it that you learned from that that you might be able to take and use for yourself? So think of one skill that you have that somebody younger would love to learn and go help with that. That's going to keep you relevant. What relevance is tied into is legacy. So we all want to remain relevant because the thought of becoming irrelevant means that nobody's thinking about us, that everything we've ever done doesn't matter. Um, it is kind of, it sort of formed from philosophy. But what we know is that when we are looking at all of our, thoughts of being relevant, we're really saying to ourselves in a way, I want to make sure I have a legacy. I'm not forgotten, that everything I did mattered, that I wasn't just here. You're welcome. I wasn't here just taking up time. And the way that we can do that is when we connect with others, that makes us remain relevant because they're carrying on a little piece of ourselves in with whatever they are doing. So every time you're connecting, every time you're putting another creative spin on something and doing something that puts yourself out there, you are remaining relevant. You can make posts right here on any of the social media platforms that you're on that can help you remain relevant. Talk about the things that you find to be important or that matter to you. That helps to help you to remain relevant. So relevance and legacy are tied together in a way, and that's why it's so scary for us to feel like we might be irrelevant. And that can crop up in midlife. So the next one, number 3, is health and mortality awareness. Look, this one is really scary because when somebody becomes ill or when we ourselves start to get aches and pains and we go to the doctor and we start to face loss, the first bit of reading glasses, I didn't always wear glasses. That happened in midlife. When you face loss in your circle of friends, when your friends start to suffer from illnesses, it's like getting hit with hitting a brick wall. It's very scary because it reminds us that we are not immortal, that our life will end at some point. And this is something that rattles people and it's very scary. So, the one thing that I can say is very helpful with this is to have awareness that we need to prioritize our relationships with others. Because when we start to think of mortality, all kinds of ideas come into our mind about, well, am I going to be cared for if I end up sick, or what's going to happen to me? Or, we imagine all kinds of thoughts that, whatever it is that go through our minds. And so we really need to focus on intentional living. I'm not saying go live your best life every day. I'm saying be intentional about who we are with, what we're doing with our time. So midlife is the time to start prioritizing relationships and to prioritize the intentionality of our life. Like, are we just doing things to, get through the day? Or are we making intentions for what we want to do? Do we have goals for ourselves so that we're not spending time just, wasting hours, but doing things that matter to us, that mean something to us? So when we prioritize our relationships, are you spending time with people that you dread being around? Are you spending time with people that matter to you? Have you sort of let some of those relationships that matter to you go? Well, reconnect. people like to reconnect, and oftentimes it's that first move that can be a little bit difficult to reach out. But go ahead and reach out to connections and people who you want to have stronger relationships with. This is the time to do that. This helps to feel a sense of control over our lives. This helps us to feel a sense of comfort when we're really scared about health and mortality awareness. So the other thing is to do what we all know to do, right? Which is to check in on our physical and mental health all the time. Go to the doctor visits, go to the dentist visits, check in on your mental health, and of course, reach out to connect with people, especially people that you need to reconnect with. In midlife, we are at a point where, right before midlife, we are really tight with our time. We're usually really working hard. We're learning how to become experts in the things that we do. We don't have a ton of time. And that means we're not spending as much time with friends and people that we care about outside of our immediate family, maybe. So reach out to those who, you would like to reconnect with. It's super helpful for this. So start some healthy habits. Start to take control of what you can. And that is helpful. It's going to help to reframe it, that you're going to say, I'm going to do the things that matter to me in my life before my life ends. And I'm going to try to make sure I'm as healthy as possible so I can do as much as I'd like during the time that I have. So the next one, number 4, is financial and career uncertainty. I just want to sigh over this one, right? Because everything about growing older is sort of beaten over our heads about finances. And so many people I talk to are like, I don't even know how much I need. I'm just nervous that I won't have enough money. Like, do I need $100,000? Do I need $100 million? Like, it's really unclear to a lot of people how much money we need to grow old with. So in midlife, it hits us like, oh my gosh, I don't have the rest of my life to plan for this. Am I going to be okay? So career uncertainty and our finances are sort of everything you read about in the media when it talks about growing older, when it talks about planning and things like that. So it gets reinforced for us as being a scary thing. So the one thing to think about is that financial anxiety is there for everybody. You could turn to a neighbor who you say, wow, that person really has all the money they should need, and they might not think so. And you might turn and look to somebody else who really doesn't have as much money as you, and they might be okay, feel okay about it. So we have to really think about all of this. But one thing I have to say that is a help with this is more and more people are opting because they want to work longer, and not because they have to, but because they want to. And that reduces that anxiety while they're doing something that gives them a lot of purpose. So I'll give you an example. A lot of people who teach at universities, they say, I'm going to keep on teaching. I enjoy my job. There are certain people who say, I'm going to keep doing my exact job that I've had for a long time. I love it. I don't want to leave it. I like going in. I like the structure of having a day mapped out for me. This is all good for me. And other people will say, you know what, I'm going to retire, but I'm going to get a part-time passion job. And an example of that is one person who was an artist, retired, and he said, I love sports and I want to go down and, be on the field with the college teams and, see the games. So he became a bus driver for college sports, D1 sports. And you can get really creative, do a lot that you would, a lot of people don't even think of some of these options that we have, but that can reduce the financial and career uncertainty that so many of us have, that we feel like we don't have any control over. So it's just getting a little sense of control. You don't need always to have a full-time job, and you may want to work. A lot of people say, I don't ever want to retire. I want to keep working. And it isn't because they need the money. It's because they want to, because it gives them a sense of purpose. So you can do all kinds of reinvention, some side gigs. You can do consulting. You can learn new things and try something new. A lot of people start up Etsy stuff. and they make money in new ways that they never would have thought of, but now they have the time to do it. People do handiwork, they do, coaching, they do all kinds of things that really bring them a lot of pleasure. They don't have to put in the same amount of hours, but it makes sure that they're going to have what they need. It also is a way that a lot of people use that to do just the amount that they can get to get insurance coverage. And so these sorts of things help with purpose and stability and the feeling of control, which everything that I've been mentioning so far, it's just managing to say, oh, I feel out of control with this. How do I turn it so I can get that sense of control? That's what we're looking for with all of these. So if you have a dream passion project that you would do, if money wasn't an issue, maybe that's what you start up, because you're not going to care that you're getting the same amount of money you're getting now, but maybe that in your retirement years is what you want to do, because it'll bring in a little bit of money, just enough that you need, and be a help to you. So count that as part of what your future might hold, and it might make you feel really great. Some people become adjunct professors. They do all kinds of things that help, that people say, I didn't even realize that was an opportunity for me. So think of these because they really could help. Number 5 is the fear of missed opportunities. This is a total FOMO thing. If you have felt FOMO, like, you're not alone. Okay. Most people will say, oh my gosh, I missed out. Everybody else was doing this thing and I missed out. I didn't do it. And then people say, I think it's too late now. I'm in midlife. It's too late to do it. It's not. Maybe something passed, but is it really something that matters to you now? Ask that. Because almost all the time when I ask that, does this truly matter to you? People will say no. And most of the time we miss out on things because we don't really care about it that much. But then we see somebody else did it and all of a sudden we're like, oh, I should have done it. But really, does it truly matter to you? If you couldn't do it in the future, does it really matter? Sometimes we can do it. We still have time. Most things we do have time to do it. But if you don't, ask yourself, does it really matter? And you'll probably answer that for yourself, and you'll be surprised. So when you get midlife clarity and courage to do things, make it the ideal time, midlife, to pursue any of your old dreams. Anything that you feel like you might have missed out on, anything that you feel like, I really wish I had done this, do it. And you can find interesting ways to do it, like that artist. That was an interesting way to take something that he felt he missed out on and he made it happen in a unique new way. Like, I would not have come up with that clever way of getting to that, but he's a creative person, so he did. So any old dream that you had, look at that and see if that's something that you would like to make into a job in your future. So everyone is starting new things in midlife. You might become a writer, you might become a podcaster, maybe you'll become a content creator on social media. Whatever your thing is that you feel like you missed out on earlier, see if you can make that into a job now. Thank you. I appreciate you. So think to yourself right now, what's one thing you'd try if you could start it today? That's something that you can do. Now, this is a really big help for getting rid of all that FOMO fear that we have, that, oh my gosh, I should have done a million other things, when really you don't want to do it. So just rethink all of that. So when you're thinking of midlife, I really hope that you will realize that fear and being scared of things about your future, because the future holds the unknown, is normal. There's nothing wrong with being afraid of what might come in the future. But know that you shouldn't attach yourself to that. You should reframe it into something you can feel control over. Make it something that you can use to say, I feel chaos all around me. I'm going to now grab it and hold it and feel control over it. So if I go over some of these right here, some of the top things that people talk to me about being afraid of, the loss of identity. You never lose your identity. You're more than just your job. You're more than just being a parent. You're more than just one thing that you usually identify with. Remind yourself of all the things that you do. Yes, I am. I'll just tell you, I'm an applied developmental psychologist. My name is Deborah Heiser. I should have reminded people in the middle. I'm sorry. So, yes, I am an applied developmental psychologist. I'm also the author of The Mentorship Edge, and I was the founder and CEO of the Mentor Project for 8 years. So, the first thing, and I'm a contributor, an expert contributor for Psychology Today as well. So, you can find my articles there. And you can find them also on Substack, where I write other articles also. So you can find a lot of my work all over the place. So if you're going to look at some of the things that we're afraid of, remember, you are not just one thing. You are all kinds of things. If you like to do art, if you like to do music, if you like to, write, if you like to, whatever it is, that's part of your identity, right? You're not just your job title. You're not just your business card. You're way more. So anything that you feel purpose with is part of your identity. Anytime there's a shift and change, it doesn't matter what they think. If you do art, it's your vision. This is your identity. You do not have to attach your identity to anybody else. It's yours. It's all you. So if you're doing art, you're doing it for you. So do it. And you know what? Put that out there. Let other people see it. Maybe the people right in your immediate circle aren't the right audience for it. Maybe you have to put it out more broadly. There's more than 8 billion people in the world. You can find someone out there. It's not like finding a needle in a haystack. It's finding hay in a haystack. You're going to find somebody who's going to be really into the art that you're doing. So, remember the identity, you can have a controlled feeling about that. The fear of irrelevance, that's really tied to legacy. You want to make sure that all the time you are remembering that you are relevant and that you need to remain connected with others. You need to remain thinking of yourself as putting whatever it is that's important to you out there, because relevance is really legacy, and you do have control of putting that out there. Art is subjective, so there's always going to be somebody that's going to be good with what you're doing. So there are different styles, and that's why there's different people for all the different styles. So keep doing your art. Whatever art you're doing, do it and put it out there. There's going to be somebody in the world of 8 billion people that's going to be like, that's the style I was waiting for. Get out and mentor, volunteer so that you can see your relevance being absorbed by somebody else. That's really going to help you. So maybe you start a podcast, maybe you start posting here. Get yourself out and relevant in the world, because that's your legacy. You have control over that. Health and mortality awareness. This is the one that scares most people. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you appreciated the advice. You too. So when we talk about health and mortality awareness, again, this is the scariest for most people, but you do not need to be thinking of this as something that should be so overwhelming. Think about what you have control over. Think about, what can I do now? Take control of things like doctor visits. Take care of, going to the dentist. Get yourself into a healthy state and reconnect with people. Get yourself as connected as you can, because that is a buffer for feeling scared about your mortality. Financial uncertainty. Remember, you do not have to don't read everything out there about finances. It can be so scary. Talk to either a financial person, but the biggest thing is, remember that it's being normalized now to work longer, and not for the finance part of it, but for the feeling of feeling good about things and feeling good about yourself and keeping structure and purpose. Remember that you can do that. You can reinvent yourself at any time, and that money can be attached to that, and that you can continue to work until whatever age you want, doing things you like that don't feel like work. And finally, FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's never too late, but ask yourself if you really feel like you missed out on something, if you really feel like you missed the opportunity, ask yourself, can I do it? How can I be creative and make it happen? How can I go and look at this from a million different directions to see if I can make it happen? And ask yourself, do I really want it, or am I just comparing myself to other people? Because a lot of times we actually don't want it. We just want to be able to say we did it because we know other people that did it. So take a look at it in both of those directions. But remember, growing older is all about making sure that we get to feel a sense of control in our lives, that we get to take what might seem like future uncertainty, that we can actually give ourselves a sense of control with most of those. And then that makes us feel like we can move forward with ease. We can engage with others with ease. We can do all kinds of actionable steps to do things that make us happy and that make us feel fulfilled and like we mattered in the world, like we'll have a legacy. All of that stuff is super helpful to us. So I hope that you will examine your identity cards, and that you'll find at least two things that you can say, this is part of my identity, that you will sign up for a class, or that you will start mentoring somebody, that you'll reconnect with an old friend or send a message to an old friend, but get that in the works. I hope that you will pick one thing to do differently and to share your progress. I hope that, if you want to, that you will send a message or come on tomorrow when I come on and let me know if there was anything that you did, because it's exciting once we start looking at our life journey as something that we have control over and as something that we are active participants in. So midlife is not the end, it's the beginning. Every single fear that we have can open up a new door for us. So I encourage you to have gratitude for what you do have. When people say I don't know what I have to be grateful for, be grateful and have gratitude for the basic things, that you can breathe, that you can see, that you can hear, that you can, use your limbs, whatever you have. Be grateful for it. Um, Look to be having growth. Look to grow a little bit further than where you are. What's one step further that you can take? What's one more connection that you can make? How can you make one of your connections a little bit stronger? And how can you celebrate every one of your wins? Every time you reinvent yourself, every time you do something different, every time you look at something in a new way, celebrate it. I just yesterday talked about creating an I am great list every day, to write down 5 things that you've done that are great. And most people think you have to write down amazing things, like you have to be like the Dalai Lama or something, and you don't. You could say, I got out of bed today. I made my bed. I folded laundry. I ate something healthy, whatever you want. But give yourself a win for things. Start celebrating yourself. Once you hit midlife, this is the time that you should give yourself credit for things. So, I thank you for coming on today, and I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.